You know, we spend so much energy worrying about the endpoint.
Right.
That's the device in your hand or, the laptop on your desk. We obsess over antivirus, EDR software, microphone permissions.
All the stuff you can see and touch.
Exactly. We treat these things like the crown jewels. But there is a box sitting in the corner of your room right now. It's probably covered in dust, definitely blinking in some rhythm you don't understand. And we almost completely ignore it.
Well, until the Netflix stream starts buffering. Then it gets a lot of attention.
Huh, fair enough. I'm talking about the router, the gateway. And the reason I'm staring suspiciously at mine today is because of a report that just dropped this morning, February 6, 2026.
Yeah, this one was a big deal.
It's from Bill Toulis, and he's breaking down some incredibly dense research from the team over at Cisco Talos. They've uncovered something called DKnife.
And DKnife isn't just some little bug or a simple glitch. It's a massive modular toolkit.
Right. And here's the kicker. It's been active since 2019.
7 years.
7 years of operating in the shadows. So our mission for this deep dive is to look at this whole edge device vulnerability. We are going to unpack DKnife, what it is, how it turns a boring little plastic box into a surveillance superweapon, and why the security industry is, frankly, freaking out about it today.
It's a story that really forces you to rethink where the perimeter of your security actually is.
So let's start with the basics. The report calls DKnife a post-compromise framework. Now, I want to be precise here because that sounds like jargon.
It is jargon.
Post-compromise implies the bad guys are already in, right?
That's the crucial distinction. We aren't talking about the battering ram that breaks down the door. The Cisco Talos researchers, they were very clear on this. They don't know exactly how the initial infection happens. So it could be a weak admin password, which, let's be honest, nobody ever changes.
Guilty.
Or maybe an unpatched vulnerability in the router's firmware. But post-compromise means that part is over. They have root access. DKnife is the furniture they move in after they've already broken in.
Or, to use a slightly more terrifying analogy, if my laptop is my house and the internet is the city, the router is my driveway.
That's a great way to visualize it.
Most malware, it tries to break into the house. They want to pick the lock, smash a window. But DKnife doesn't even touch the house.
Oh.
DKnife is digging a tunnel underneath the driveway.
Exactly. And think about what that means. Every single time you leave your digital house, whether you're going to the bank, sending an email, or just browsing the news, you have to drive down that driveway.
You have no choice.
And DKnife is just sitting there, underground, watching every car go by.
And because they aren't actually in the house on my laptop, my antivirus software has absolutely no idea they are there.
None.
I could be running the most expensive security suite in the world, and it would just report all clear, while DKnife is recording everything I do.
Precisely. This is what we call an adversary-in-the-middle attack. AitM. They insert themselves into the flow of traffic itself.
I want to get into the nuts and bolts of how they do this, because the engineering here is kind of fascinating in a really scary way. The report calls it a Swiss Army knife.
Right, because it's not just one file. It's a set of 7 distinct Linux modules.
So it's modular.
Yeah, and modularity is a hallmark of sophisticated engineering. It means they built this thing to last. They can swap parts out, update specific functions, and keep the whole thing small so the router doesn't crash.
Let's walk through the stars of the show here. The report highlights a few key binaries. The first one is just called dknife.bin.
Simple enough.
I appreciate the lack of creativity. Makes it easier to track.
They weren't trying to win a marketing award, that's for sure. So
Yeah.
dknife.bin is the brain. It handles the core logic. It's responsible for packet inspection, literally opening up the little data packets flying through your router to see what's inside.
So it's the manager.
It's the manager. It decides what's interesting enough to steal and what should just be allowed to pass through.
Okay, so that's the brain. But there's another component that really caught my eye, and this is where that tunnel under the driveway analogy becomes like literal code. A module called ytg.bin.
Ah, yes, ytg.bin. This is the technical masterpiece of the whole toolkit. This is the bridge.
So the report says it creates a virtual Ethernet interface on the router. For those of us who aren't network engineers, why do that? Why create a fake interface? Why not just listen on the existing one?
It's all about control and persistence. See, normally traffic flows from your computer to the router and then out to the internet. What utg.bin does is create a new virtual lane on that highway.
A new lane.
And it assigns it a private IP address, 10.3.3.3.
10.3.3.3. Okay, so that's the ghost lane.
Right. And the malware then reconfigures the router's internal traffic rules. It forces your data to take a little detour through this virtual interface before it gets to go out to the real internet. It's like a checkpoint.
So instead of just watching the cars go by, they're actually forcing the cars to pull over.
To pull over into this inspection station that's living inside the router's memory.
And to me, browsing the web, it feels completely seamless.
Totally seamless. There's no lag. But behind the scenes, your data just took a detour through a hacker-controlled node at 10.3.3.3. They can hold the packets, read them, even modify them, and then release them back onto the normal road.
That's just incredibly stealthy. And that architecture, that virtual bridge, is what enables everything else, isn't it? It's the foundation.
Without that bridge, they are just bystanders. With it, they are traffic controllers.
So let's talk about what they're doing with all that control. I think the average person hears router hack and thinks, okay, they want my Wi-Fi password.
Or credit card number, maybe.
And yeah, sure, they probably do. But the list of what DKnife monitors is, well, it's extensive. It feels less like theft and more like a pattern of life tool.
That's exactly what it is. It's surveillance in the truest sense of the word.
The report lists things like Signal, maps, news apps, ride-hailing services, shopping. Let's just take the ride-hailing and maps part. Why would a hacker care if I'm booking an Uber?
Context. It's always about context. If you're on your home Wi-Fi and you look up a destination or you book a car to a specific address, DKnife captures that request.
And they can map out my physical movements?
They know when you leave the house. They know where you go. They know when you come back.
That is creepy. But wait, you mentioned Signal. Signal is end-to-end encrypted. I thought the whole point was that even if someone intercepts the traffic, it's just scrambled garbage.
That is true, and it's important to be clear here. DKnife cannot break Signal's encryption. They can't read your message, but they can see the metadata. Metadata kills. They can see that you are using Signal, who you are talking to, at what times, and how much data you're exchanging.
Yeah.
And sometimes, for an intelligence agency, knowing who a journalist is talking to is just as valuable as knowing what they said.
That's a fair point. But for other things, like email, they aren't so limited, are they?
No, not at all. The report specifically mentions they target POP3 and IMF traffic. Those are the older email protocols. A lot of legacy systems still use them, and they often lack modern encryption. DKnife just strips the credentials and steals the emails outright.
Now, we have to talk about the one app that seems to be the primary target here. The one where the surveillance goes from, general monitoring to obsessive detail, and that's WeChat.
The WeChat deep dive.
Yeah.
This, for me, was the most striking part of the whole Talos report, just the granularity of it.
It's not just capturing packets. It seems like the toolkit has a parser built specifically for WeChat traffic.
It does. It actually reconstructs the user's experience. It tracks voice calls, video calls, text messages, images sent and received. But there was one detail that really showed the intent here.
What was that?
It tracks specific articles read on the platform.
That stopped me in my tracks, too. Tracking articles read, that's not financial theft. It's not even traditional espionage. That is ideological profiling.
Exactly. It completely shifts the threat model. It's not just what's in your wallet. It is what is in your head. What are you thinking?
So if you're reading articles about political dissent or sensitive history or foreign news...
DKnife logs it.
Right.
It builds a profile of your mind.
That is chilling. And it speaks of the sophistication here. They aren't just dumping raw data. They are parsing it for meaning. They want to know who you are.
And remember, they're doing this efficiently on a router. Routers have very limited processing power. To run that kind of analysis without crashing the device requires some serious engineering.
So that's the passive side, the watching, logging, profiling. But we mentioned this is an active toolkit. The knife in DKnife cuts both ways.
Right. This isn't just a camera, it's a weapon. And this is where ytg.bin, that virtual bridge, becomes absolutely terrifying. We have to talk about update hijacking.
This is the part that makes me want to throw my phone in a river. Walk us through how this works, because it weaponizes something we are told to do for our own safety.
Okay, so we're all trained, right? Update your devices, good digital hygiene. Your phone pops up a notification. Update available for your calculator app. You think, great, security patches, and you tap update.
I do it without thinking. We all do.
So in a normal network, your phone asks the App Store server for the file, and the server sends it. But remember, DKnife is the driveway. It sees that request leaving your phone.
Get me the update for App X.
And because it controls the traffic, it intercepts it. It catches the request at that virtual interface, 10.3.3.3, and stops it from ever reaching the real server. And instead, DKnife says, oh, here is the file you asked for.
But it swaps the payload.
It swaps the payload. Instead of the real update, it sends a malicious APK file, basically an Android virus.
But I'm the one who initiated the download.
That's the beauty of it. To you, and even to the Android OS, it looks like a legitimate response to a user action. because you tapped yes. You essentially just invited the vampire in.
The router is gaslighting your phone. It's lying to it about reality.
Gaslighting the endpoint is a perfect way to put it. And it's not just Android. The report details that they used the router to attack Windows PCs on the network too.
How does a Linux router infect a Windows PC? That seems harder.
Through similar methods. Intercepting unencrypted downloads, injecting into network shares, they drop two specific pieces of malware, ShadowPad and DarkNimbus.
I've heard of ShadowPad. That is not some script kiddie tool.
No, ShadowPad is a heavy hitter.
Yeah?
The modular backdoor used by advanced persistent threat groups. It's military-grade stuff. And the version they're dropping is signed with a stolen digital certificate.
Which means Windows looks at it and says,
This looks legitimate. Come on in.
so now they've pivoted from the router, from the driveway, into the living room. They have total control.
Total control. And they also mess with DNS, the phone book of the internet. They can redirect you to fake banking sites. But even more deviously, DKnife creates a blind spot for your security tools.
How does it do that?
Well, let's say your antivirus spots that ShadowPad file.
Yeah.
The first thing it does is try to phone home to its update server or its threat intelligence cloud to verify it.
Like calling for backup.
Exactly. But DKnife identifies that traffic going to known security vendors, and it cuts the connection.
It cuts the phone line.
It blinds the guards. So your security software just sits there, unable to update, unable to verify threats, essentially paralyzed, while the malware runs rampant.
It creates this perfect isolated ecosystem for itself, which really forces us to ask the big question, who is doing this? The report from Cisco Talos uses the phrase high confidence.
Yeah, and in the intelligence world, they don't throw that around lightly.
No, high confidence is about as close to a definitive we know it's them as you get in this business.
Yeah.
They attribute this to a China-nexus threat actor.
And we should be clear for our listeners, this isn't some political guess. This is based on technical artifacts they found in the code.
Right, digital forensics.
Exactly. They found comments in the source code written in simplified Chinese. The naming conventions for the modules follow patterns seen in other Chinese malware families.
And the targeting we just talked about, WeChat.
The obsession with WeChat is a huge fingerprint. Plus, the malware explicitly targets Chinese service providers, mobile apps, media domains. It is designed to thrive within that specific digital ecosystem.
And there was a connection to another tool too, right? Something called WizardNet.
Yes. The infrastructure, the command and control servers that DKnife talks to, were also found hosting this other tool, WizardNet. And WizardNet is a backdoor linked to a framework called Spellbinder.
Spellbinder. That sounds familiar.
It should. Spellbinder is another one of these adversary-in-the-middle tools that has been previously and definitively attributed to Chinese actors.
So you have shared code, shared language, shared targets, and shared servers.
It's the same neighborhood, same landlords. It paints a very, very consistent picture.
Now, I can hear a listener thinking, well, I don't use WeChat. I live in Ohio. I'm safe. Why is that a dangerous assumption?
Because the internet doesn't really have borders like that. First, there are multinational corporations. If you have an office in Shanghai or you do business with vendors there, your network traffic is crossing these digital borders. You're in the blast radius.
And what about the technology itself?
That's the bigger risk. This router implant strategy isn't limited by geography. If they can infect a Linux router in Beijing, they can infect a Linux router in Berlin or Boston or Brazil. The vulnerability is in the hardware and the software, not the location.
And this isn't ancient history. We said it started in 2019, but what's the status right now?
As of January 2026, so last month, the command and control servers for DKnife are still active. The lights are on. This is an ongoing operation.
That brings us to the so what. Why is the industry making such a big deal about this specific report today?
It's because DKnife highlights this massive blind spot in our current defense strategy. The cybersecurity industry has spent the last decade obsessed with EDR endpoint detection and response. We put agents on laptops, we monitor servers.
But DKnife shows that if the attack happens on the wire, the laptop never even sees it coming.
Exactly. It's a huge challenge to the industry to, move back to monitoring the network itself. We need to be looking at the router logs. We need to be checking for connections to weird internal IPs like 10.3.3.3. We need to inspect the pipe, not just the water coming out of it.
But let's be realistic. How many small businesses, let alone individuals, ever log into their router's admin panel?
Almost none.
Most people don't even know the password. It's admin or it's on a sticker on the bottom.
And that is exactly why this is such a successful vector. It hides in the one place nobody wants to look. It's the unwashed corner of the digital house.
So if we zoom out, we have this modular toolkit that's been running for 7 years. It intercepts everything we do, it modifies what we download, and it profiles what we read. It feels like we're losing the ground beneath our feet.
It really suggests that the edge is the new front line. Routers, modems, gateways, these devices are often running obscure versions of Linux. They are hard to patch. They sit in closets for 5 years without being touched. They are the perfect hideout for persistent espionage.
So what's the takeaway for the listener? I mean, we can't all become network engineers overnight. I can't audit my router's kernel code.
No, of course not. But awareness is the first step. If you're a corporate security officer, you need to start monitoring your edge device logs immediately. You need to look for these indicators of compromise that Talos published.
Then for the rest of us, the regular users.
It reinforces the concept of zero trust. You asked earlier if we can trust the local network, and the answer increasingly is no. You have to treat your own home Wi-Fi or your office LAN with the same suspicion you treat the public Wi-Fi at an airport coffee shop.
That is a heavy lift mentally, to treat your own living room like a hostile environment.
It is. But if your router can lie to you, you have no choice. You have to rely on encryption that verifies the destination like proper HTTPS and secure DNS, and not just trust that the pipe is clean.
It's a sobering reality check. The driveway isn't just a slab of concrete anymore, it's an active participant in your digital life, and it might be working against you.
That's the reality of modern cyber warfare. The infrastructure itself is the battlefield.
Well, this report from Cisco Talos is a massive contribution. It shines a very bright light on a very dark corner.
Absolutely. Identifying the tool is always the first step to killing it.
We've covered the mechanics, the surveillance, the active attacks, the attribution. It's a lot to process, but I think the key takeaway is don't ignore the blinking box in the corner.
Check for firmware updates, folks. And maybe, just maybe, change that admin password.
Definitely change the password. Thank you for walking us through this, and thanks to our listener for diving deep with us. Stay curious, stay suspicious, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.